you can think, well, it really ain't that bad because we ain't seeing so much that's going on to happen to us as a whole. We might see a little bit here, a little bit here, and we got just enough freedom to think that we are free and not oppressed. Until we take those glasses off that America gave us with the American dream and really start looking at stuff and go back in history and begin to search out how serious this oppression is. Okay, so now let's go through the scriptures and you'll be able to look up here and see everything also too. Let me go to this one quote. This quote really, to me, I love the way that it put it. Let's see. It says, you will never understand the magnitude of how great your ancestors were until you understand the magnitude of the system they face. And you can only understand that by understanding the history that was never taught. Ain't that powerful? You can never understand the magnitude of how great your ancestors was until you understand the magnitude of the system that they are facing. And you can only do that through understanding history, the history that was never taught. So I think that's important because it's hard to realize that a lot of this stuff that's going on is about us. But now let's go into the way that our oppressors would think according to the Bible. Now you're really going to have to make your mind up about this stuff because this is stuff that some people look at and tell you, man, you really, that stuff ain't important. You really ought to not be learning that. That stuff might start changing your mind, might start changing your heart, all those type things. But it's very, very important. If you want to understand why the end times, want to understand prophecy, want to understand what's going to be going on, because the worst thing is to preach about something that you don't know what's going on. You see it and you can talk about it, but you don't know why it's happening. You can say all day that, man, it's getting bad, it's finna get bad, we're finna start seeing this, this, and that, but you don't know the purpose of it and the end goal of what this trouble is going to get us to. You understand? Then we'll be able to deal better, because now I'm going to tell you what this trouble is going to do. It's going to separate and validate what the true word is. And this is why I say that. All these messages and people that say they got the truth finna be deciphered out. Because if your truth can't last through what's finna be happening and the trouble that's gonna be happening, it's gonna really see who got the right message. Because people ain't gonna want to hear no normal message that Jesus saves when they see all this destruction going on. They ain't gonna want to hear no message about Buddha if Buddha ain't doing that. They ain't gonna want to hear no message about Confucius, no message about Islam, if it's not helping me in the midst of this. So all this trouble and oppression has to happen. And who is the target of it? It has to happen to people of color. Because we don't realize that we are the focus of the end time. That's hard for us to get. That we are the nation that the focus of the end time is going. You can pay attention all you want to over there in Israel where they talking about wars and stuff, but that ain't the focus of what the end time is going to be according to Scripture. According to Scripture, God say He's going to turn back to His people, but He can't deliver His people if His people still got the slave mentality in them. We're going to really be able to tell the difference of what was instituted to our ancestors in the form of Western Christianity. We're going to be able to see, because it ain't going to last. People running around, shouting around the church. Ain't nobody going to be doing that when it start getting worse and worse. And your message going to have to change. You ain't going to be able to be saying that God's going to give you houses, cars, and lands. And I see, for $100 prayer line, I see 100 people over here got $100. 5 people over here got $20. And then everybody else just stand up with whatever else you got. When the money fails, that message of prosperity is not going to last.
And
go ahead.
The value of money continues to drop.
Continuously.
Especially American money.
Yes, sir. It continues to drop. And that is all for a reason. So we must prepare. Because, and that's what I love, even though I see our people getting killed, I see a lot of these different groups are popping up. And like I was telling somebody, you know, I'm for the idea of Black Lives Matter, but I'm not for that movement. Because one thing about us, anytime a movement come off the ground that quick and it's funded, my antennas go up. Because ain't nobody funding us like that if it's about the truth. No. But if it's funded, there's an agenda behind it. Right. And when you start looking at the people that fund it and the time that it's rising up and the stigma that it needs to put on a people to call them terrorists. But you got to look at terrorism that went all the way from when the Muslims did that, and now we are becoming the face of terrorists. Because of Black Lives Matter and the people that has a stigma that are killing the police, they're trying to put Black Lives Matter stigma on it. Right. Now, the black face is going to be the new face of terrorism. Just look at the last few things that happened here in America. Look who face it was. Mm-hmm. So they went all the way around just to come back to us. You see what I'm saying? They went from 9/11 with world terrorism, with Muslims, right. They come all the way back around to America to put it back on black people. And y'all just watch, keep watching, because a lot of stuff is going to be happening. It's going to be more killings, and it's going to be more people just killing in the streets, acting crazy. All right, so now let's go. You can look up here, it says Micah 2:2. So let's look at how confident, like it's something that the elite oppressors know. That give them the right in their mind to go to what can give you the right in your mind to go to a land, put a flagpole in it, and say it is yours? How can you be that arrogant? It's I mean, it don't matter. It don't matter who's been there for how many years. It's something in their mind that they know that gives them a right to have claim ownership of that property, no matter who's on there. Micah 2:2, it says, they covet fields and take them by violence. This is the Bible talking. And so they covet, they look at a field, they like it and covet it, then they take it by violence. They take houses, they take them away. They take them away so that they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. This is the Bible talking about the mindset of the oppressor. You're going to look at your land. This is going to be my land. I'm going to take your house. Not only your house, I'm going to oppress you, which is the man of the house. Then I'm going to take your house whole. I'm not even going to leave it at that. I'm going to take your heritage. So every heritage that you say that you have, I'm going to take it. And look at America. Look at a lot of the European countries. You'll see a little bit of Egyptian in there. You can look at America and see Egyptian stuff all over America. All the symbols. They got that stuff from Egypt. You can look at Babylon stuff here in America. You can look at Rome stuff here in America. And they took the full heritage of the true children of God, which are the Israelites, and start calling themselves the children of God, calling themselves Jewish. So they took everything away from us, and Jewish people get that state of Israel get millions of dollars every year just for being the children of Israel. Millions of dollars. I think America send them almost 25 to 30 million a year just based on that. Then we got the Flint situation. We say we can't do nothing to fix that. That's showing you the mindset of the oppressors. So it says in the Bible that they'll covet the field, they'll take them by violence, the houses they'll take away, so that they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. Zechariah 11:5, you can look up here if you can't turn that fast enough. It says, who oppressors, who possessors slay them, and hold themselves not guilty, And they that sell them say, Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. So they slay them and hold themselves not guilty. Can we see that here in America? Where they're really don't try to hold themselves. I mean, when you really look at slavery, you should have America really should be feeling guilty about how they did their ancestors. Am I right or wrong? I mean, people really should have remorse and be like, man, that was just awful and terrible. But America got so much of an attitude, not just America, North and South America, and everywhere else that we was shipped off to. Don't none of them countries feel bad about it. And we were shipped on every continent, and not one of those continents feel bad about it. I said, well, I got one little place in Africa that is saying stuff about it, but it's just like and then you look at the Jewish people with the Holocaust, the whole world feels sorry for that. And that only lasted maybe, 10 years of that. We talking about almost 400 years. And nobody cares. Don't hold themselves guilty. And you have a conversation with somebody about it that's of another nation, and they'll look at you like, man, y'all need to get over there. Y'all still talking about that? Or they'll try to bring up something, say, well, the Irish people went through slavery. You don't see them crying and whining about it. But they slavery wasn't like our slavery.
They were given assistance once they got to America.
Exactly.
That's where it started.
Exactly. And they was indentured servants. They came over here as immigrants, not led away captive. But look at the mindset. They look at your field, take your houses by violence, oppress a man his house, and take a man's heritage away from them and claim it to be their own. And then they do all that and hold themselves not guilty. Jeremiah 22:13, woe unto them that buildeth his house by unrighteousness, and his chambers by wrong, that uses his neighbor's service without wages, and give him not for his work. Jeremiah say, woe unto them. Psalms 49:10 through 12. And you have this on your regular sheets also too. The sheets that I gave also to you. And I have some more copies up there if you want those. Let's look at this. For he seeth that wise men die, likewise the fool and the brutish person perish, and leave their wealth to others. This is talking about our oppressors. He said that wise men die, likewise the fool and the brutish person perish, and leave their wealth to others. Watch this. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. Why would it be important to call the lands after the lands that they call? Now look at the arrogance of this now. I'm going to make this, I don't care who is here, I'm going to make this land my name. And it's going to forever be called my name. I'm your oppressor, and then the people of the land going to call themselves by me. So what are we calling ourselves when we call ourselves American? Whose name was originally America? Say it again. Amerigo Vespucci. America was named after him. And he was one of the men that also traveled with Christopher Columbus. And he was an oppressor also.
Yeah.
And what Christopher Columbus did over here was just irate and crazy. But the crazy part is, like, we give people like that, Christopher Columbus, that came over here, stole them people land, brought diseases over here. Now they try to say, and this is the part that I don't understand, they try to say and get you to have a disdain for Africa. Because they try to say all diseases originated there. AIDS, swine flu, Ebola, Zika, and all this stuff is man-made diseases. Now you can look this stuff up and see that it was made in a lab. But they would tell you that the natives over there eating monkey here. and monkey brain and getting these diseases now it's all over the land. And we over here don't research that and we be like, man, that's right. I don't never want to identify with no Africa. Then they show you the people running around with bones in their noses and ashes with, with leopard prints or a bowl coming out their lip and make you think that was originally you and you had to be civilized because that was you. No, when that wasn't you at all. But Christopher Columbus, he raped people, killed people, destroyed people, took babies and bashed their heads off, had dogs come eat babies up. I mean, just destroyed a land, and we made a holiday in his honor.
Yeah.
Look at how arrogant that is. And we're going to make everybody in America celebrate their holiday honoring Christopher Columbus and say he discovered America when it was already natives here. Go ahead.
He was right down there in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
But they teach you to discover America.
Yeah. It's sad, man. And he was right over there and just put his flagpole down and said, this is my land. Then watch how they'll get us to disdain our own people. Now think about, what's his name? Nat Turner. We hear the name Nat Turner, we'd be like, oh, Nat was crazy. Nat just started killing up everybody. And make you have a disdain for him. When all Nat Turner was doing was protecting his family. Think about it. You're sitting there, just think about all that's in here. If we seeing every day our loved ones getting raped, getting killed, getting beat, getting lynched, getting set on fire, getting hung, getting destroyed by all the people that was around us, that's why I was our oppressors. It's human nature to defend yourself and your family, to get mad and say, I'm tired of this happening to my people. I'm sick of this. And they say he took scripture and riled people up and went against the oppressors and started killing them. It's only natural to defend yourself. It wasn't like he was in another nation and he was just chilling over there. He just came over here and just started killing people. No. He was defending his right to be a human being. But we gave Christopher Columbus a holiday and demonized Nat Turner because we got to remember who's telling the story. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They telling the story. And when you really research Hitler, you got to remember who's telling the story.
Hey, not to mention that, why was Hitler so fired up and killed so many of the Jews? I never understood.
I got a video on that.
Okay.
That answered that completely.
Okay.
Of why he was so upset with the Jews.
Yeah.
And you look at what the Jewish people did to Germany when they gave the Jewish people a refuge from getting kicked out of other nations, allowed them to come there, build homes, allowed them to be in their government, allowed them to do a lot of things. And it's something called in history the big stab in the back that happened during World War I that caused Hitler and the people of Germany to be so upset with the Jewish people.
Okay.
But I'll give you that link to that video.
They don't teach you that either.
They'll never teach you that because you got to remember the people that's ruling have control over the textbook. So they're going to put their story in there. Their side of the story. But they call their lands after their own names. In the footnote, not only their land, but also the slaves were named as property by their master's last name. So the last names that we have is not indigenous to us. We have our slave master's last name, and then not only their last name, we call ourselves their land. American. Amerigo, Vespucci. So because their inward thoughts in verse 11 is that their houses and their dwelling places will be last throughout all generations. So what are we doing spiritually? What does it mean? Or what kind of effect it could be having on us, not just naturally, but spiritually, by calling ourselves by these last names? Mm-hmm. That's something totally different right there. It could be some things that we're going through because we still have these names on us. Now, am I saying to go to downtown and get all that change? You do what the Lord leads you to do. You see what I'm saying? You do what the Most High leads you to do. But it's a spiritual connotation because a name is extremely important. What you call yourself. That's why it says death and life is in the power of the tongue. So you can be speaking something over your life by just keep carrying these names. They show you that this is not just one of them things where you just trying to get information and trying to do this because of blackness. No. This thing got spiritual implications all over. So when you call yourself by these last names, you don't know what you can be doing. This is just something to think about. Now, am I saying again? I'm not telling nobody nothing. Don't go. I'm not telling nobody to go do no changes or stuff like that. You got to be led by the Most High, to do the different things that you do. But it is prophesied that we would be calling ourselves by the name that He originally gave us. So we see Psalms 49:10 again. We're talking about the names that they did, the mindset of the oppressors. For he said that wise men die, likewise the fool and the brutish person perish, and leave their wealth to others. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, their dwelling places to all generations, and they call their lands after their own names. And that's why we got the name Africa, and that's why we got the name America. That makes sense? So, in essence, can you call yourself black? Can black be your nationality? Why? It's a what? A color. Can your nationality be a color? Nobody else call himself a color but you. There's a reason that the Caucasian is called Caucasian or European. There's a reason that the East Indian is called Indian. There's a reason that the French are called what they call. Everybody has the Chinese. There's a reason that a Chinese is called Chinese. There's a reason that a Japanese is called Japanese. But when they get to you, specifically you, the children of the transatlantic slave trade, you're called black. That's a problem.
They came up with the name African American, right?
Yeah, and that's what we was explaining. That American, well, Jesse Jackson coined the phrase. He coined the phrase African American. But the oppressors, according to Psalms 49:10, their inward thought that their name would go throughout all generations. So they named the land America, so their name would continue on.
Yeah.
So when you call yourself American, you calling yourself by the name of the oppressor. So in the end, you can't go back to what God called you, because you're the only nation that doesn't have a name to call yourself. That's why it can change so much, because it was originally this. Israelites. You see what I'm saying? So that's why it's important to understand. Now, you take what Paul did in the book of Acts. Paul called himself a Roman. He said that because his citizenship was in Rome. But when it came to his nation, he called himself an Israelite of the tribe of Benjamin. He handled his citizenship, and that gave him privileges. And he didn't get killed one time because he said, I'm a Roman. Would y'all kill a Roman? And then, when they were sent to kill, they said, no, we didn't know you was a Roman. We know you was born in that. So they had to bag up, because he said his citizenship was there. But he didn't call himself a Roman. So that's what I do with America. I'm a citizen of America. But this is me. I don't call myself American, because I know the prophecies about that. I know what the oppressor's mindset was, and I know what I'm doing if I'm calling myself an African American. You see what I'm saying? Now, I don't disassociate with Africa. This again me. Because when you look at Israel, it's in Northeast Africa. So our origin is Africa. And I would not want to identify with America because of all the atrocities America has done to people of color from their time being here, even all the way up to now. This is me. Okay? So this is why I study what we had in Africa, because you will not be able to understand if we're progressing or not if you don't understand what we came from. Because from slavery time to now, we look like we progressed, right? Am I wrong or am I talking crazy? In a sense, we got houses now, cars now, got jobs. I'm wrong or right? Yeah, yeah, we might be struggling to pay for it, but we got it. But if I take the time of slavery up until now, it look like we progressed. But if I go before slavery and go into the African kingdoms that we had and how we were set up as kings, and then I trace that all the way back to the time of Solomon and David and take that into now, like, oh Lord, we ain't got nowhere. Because Solomon had all the riches of the earth. And even in West Africa, the kings that was there, we ain't had no bad stuff in our food. We ain't had to worry about GMOs. We ain't had to worry about getting looked at just because the color of our skin. I had a guy that worked with me from Kenya. He said, Morris, he said, it's amazing. He said, time I came over here and started working at this place, color became an issue. He said, over there in my land, he said, your color don't matter. He said, we all look alike. He said, we got foreigners there, but that ain't an issue at all. He said, instantly when I came here, and he a dark-skinned cat now. He darker than me. Y'all know I'm dark. He a dark-skinned cat. And, man, he said, man, it became such an issue. And I was like, wow, man. He said, it's just a problem. This is a system y'all on. Okay, let's keep going. So everybody understand that. I'm not trying to put my ideas on you. I'm just giving you reason. Go ahead.
One question. You said with the black thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a reason they call us black?
Well, the during the slave trade, when they would gather us in Latin, the oppressors were speaking a language which was Latin, and their way for saying black in Latin is Negro. You got to remember that the oppressors, they identified you by what they seen. Even calling the native Egyptians Egypt. The Egyptians ain't called themselves Egypt, but the people that identified with them or went over there and conquered that land, they based them based off what they seen. So in their language, it would be Egypt, but the natives call themselves Kemet. You see what I'm saying? And that's where we get chemistry from. They are sciences. You see what I'm saying? So they called us Negro and black because this is how they seen us. You see what I'm saying? Now, when you go into some of their writings, they knew who we were, but they were labeled us as black because they couldn't have nothing to identify us with our culture. So they had to pick a color called Negro or black because our skin tone compared to them was dark. So they would say black. Now we done came and we done came with different coins and saying, black power, black strength. Now some people use black as a way to identify a type of strength. Not necessarily talking about the color, but because black is strong, black is this, black is that. We are black people because the way we didn't endure. You see what I'm saying? But as far as what they call us, that's where they got that term from, calling us, because they had to pick something that would not have us identify with our culture. So I don't want you even thinking about that. We're going to just go with black. Now with Africa, you got two things out there with Africa. You got a guy that called Scipio Africanus that conquered a region in Africa. And they said that Africa was named after him. But you have a writer called Josephus that said that Africa was named after Abraham's son Ophir, and that's where it translated into Africa. Now, a lot of people started off with the Scipio Africanus thing, thinking that everything was named after this guy, but then with more research, and because Josephus is a historian that came from the time of Israel, his writings survived through that time. And he said that Africa was named after one of Abraham's descendants, which was Ophir. And that's where it derived into Africa. So now I'm leaning more towards the Josephus theory because of his credibility with history, according to the Israelites. And a lot of people now saying that Scipio Africanus named himself, put Africanus in his name, rather than naming a continent after him. That makes sense? All right, Psalms 83. Now let's see, are there people behind the scenes? Because, like I said, it's hard to wrap around our mind that this whole thing is about the children of Israel, the end time prophecy. So now let's see, is it people behind the scenes, meeting behind the scenes, trying to find ways that they can destroy the children of Israel? Psalms 83, 2 through 8. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. So who is the thee that is saying is hate? They hate in the beginning. Thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. So who is that thee that they hate? Let's read that again. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. So the thee and the thy is different. It say they hate thee, but they have taken crafty counsel against thy people. Who is the thou and the thee is talking about? Because the people seems like it's separate from the thee and the thou. Okay, let's read that one more time. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. So the thee is talking about is God. So because they hate God, they come into his creation, or the people that he chose. So this is the whole reason that they coming at you, because they can't throw nothing up and hit God. So I'm going to destroy the people that he chose. That makes sense? They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and have consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Why did it call God's people the hidden ones? It's just how I read scripture. I stop and ask questions. Why would it call God's people the hidden ones? How would y'all be hidden?
Seemed like they was always trying to, God and the people he chose, his chosen one was always trying to hide his children, the children of Israel, to keep people from killing them. There was always other tribes, people trying to kill them, like Pharaoh and his people.
That's true. That's a good point.
They was constantly hiding.
It was constantly hiding. That's true. Being protected. That's somewhat true. But they really are. If you look at us now, we are hidden from who we are. The other nations won't be. They don't know, because we don't got nothing on us to identify until the end time. Till now, we starting to wake up and they begin to see. But we kind of hidden from everybody because we the only one. If everybody was to go back to their native lands right now, where would we go? We wouldn't know, as far as what we was taught in the past, not now. We wonder, because some people say we're Africa, but where in Africa? Before you came into this information, where would you go? So you kind of hidden from having an identity, from all those type things. That makes sense? Our hidden ones, and they said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They made a confederate against thee. Let's look at who made it. The tabernacles of Edom, the Ishmaelites of Moab, the Hagarenes, Gabal, Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur also is joined with them, and they have hope in the children of Lot. Now, could the descendants of these people be living today? Are they making decisions on our behalf today? So is there still people that are taking crafty counsel against us behind closed doors?
Yep,
Or a government? Or people going crazy now because they saying, man, they starting to wake up. Their whole system was set up so we would never wake up to who we are. Because they said their job is to cut them off from being a nation. So any type of way we try to unite, they're going to try to find a way to cut that off.
even at work.
Even at work. They're going to try to find a way to cut that off, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. What are some of the things they did so the name of Israel won't be no more in remembrance? Change their name to a slavery name and get some more. Just think about slavery. They took the names away from us, shipped the children off, teachings. So all these things were set up.
Also, religion.
Religion is major.
Yeah, Christianity.
Is major. Religion is major. That's why we have all these different denominations. Now, like I said, you have a true Christianity that was taught initially from the Messiah from the eastern part of the world. Then you got this manufactured Christianity that we got over here that was not set up by the Most High. Go ahead.
I got a question about that.
Go ahead.
As Christians,
Mm-hmm.
is it anywhere in the Bible they call believers Christians?
Well,
That's a good question.
Yeah.
the greater question is there anywhere in the Bible that God called, the Most High called his followers Christians? Or did the Messiah call his followers Christians anywhere in the Bible?
I seen believers, I seen, that's why I asked.
But you never seen Christians. It says in Acts that they was called Christians from the outside nation, and there was a reason why they was called Christians. That was a common type of verbiage in that land.
Yes.
But when you read Acts, you'll see that they was called, like you said, believers, or that's called followers of disciples, or they was called followers of the way. And when Paul, and I think it's Acts 28, when Paul got questioned about what he was doing, and they said that he was a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes. Now, when you understand the Nazarenes, they said that Jesus came from Nazareth, but they weren't just talking about his birthplace. It was talking about Nazarene means a branch. Linking that back to Isaiah 11, where it says that he will be the branch. So we are the limbs of that branch. You see what I'm saying? So they called them Nazarenes at that time, showing that this is a different sect that follow the Messiah.
I just want to know that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
People call me a Christian. I stopped that about a year ago. I said, no, I'm a believer.
Yeah.
Because I can identify with a Christian when I see what other people do.
There you go.
How they're living.
There you go. I'm not a Christian. There you go. Because he never called us that. And you got to remember that Christian is a Greek term. It's not a Hebrew term. So the way to say it in Hebrew is, Mashiach. That is Messiah in Hebrew. So if you're going to really say it, you would say you Messianic. That means you follow the traditions. You follow everything that the Messiah, and that was prophesied of the Messiah that he would do. Messianic, not Christian. But the Bible was translated into Greek, and they used Christos, which is a Greek term. And that's where you get Christian from. I mean, you just research the stuff, you'll get it. But you're right. I stopped calling myself that also too. But that's what a lot of people identify with that. And if you was to tell your average person you ain't a Christian, they'll go crazy. You ain't no Christian. What you mean you ain't no Christian? They'll go crazy.
They go straight to the devil.
Exactly. The devil that took your mind and all that type stuff. You see what I'm saying? All right. Now let's see the psychology of creating the term Negro. How you doing? All right. This is what we call the Willie Lynch, the making of a slave. Anybody ever heard of that? Willie Lynch. Now, this is what I always couldn't figure out, man. How could you have one slave master and a few people under him? All right, shalom, God bless you. And a few people under him that can control 50 slaves.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how is that possible? It had to be something psychological they had going on that was implemented for that type of control. Now, we don't hear a lot of the rebellions that did rise up, because you got to remember, the oppressors is telling the story, so they ain't going to tell you about all the rebellions they did have, and people rose up, because it was one even dealing with the Haitians that on their way over here, well, so-called Haitians now, but on their way over here, they took that boat, beat them people, and took that boat and sailed it over there and started to get, and then when the French came to attack them, they started working their roots, and French just left them alone. So we're just going to leave y'all over there, because they couldn't combat that. But let's look at what was implemented throughout slavery in order to psychologically reduce your mind to the Negro.
Now, you don't have to answer this if it's going to take us off topic, but was it ever confirmed that the people of Haiti, Haitian people, were the tribe of Levi?
I'm careful with that now. It's hard to me. When I first got into this truth, I got excited, and I would say, yeah, man, we all different tribes. The tribe of Judah is the Negroes. The tribe of Benjamin is the Jamaicans. The tribe of Levi is the Haitians. But it's no way you can 100% prove that academically, because it wasn't like they was taking groups of people off the ships and say, okay, y'all are the Levites, so we're going to set you in this land. Okay, y'all are the Benjamins, so we're going to set you in this land. And then, even in those lands that was right by each other, you had people escaping and moving all the way around. So it's hard to say what particular tribe you from. Now, you can take the spirit and maybe take some of prophecies and see, but I do not subscribe to everybody knowing what their individual tribe was. I know our nation is Israelite, and I know that our culture is the Hebrew culture. But when it comes to tribe, it's hard to say that. Now, I could say that we all somewhat can be from the tribe of Judah, but individually breaking down every tribe, that's hard to do. Because some of the places that they say we from, like you take the Igbo, they say over 40 to 50% of the American Negroes that over here came from the Igbos that's over in West Africa. And the Igbos say that they are from the tribe of Gad and say that we are their descendants. A lot of people that do their DNA find out that a lot of us over here in America do derive from the Igbo. And they still keep the traditions of our ancestors according to the Israelites then. So that's why, I don't know about that. Okay, let's go through this. What time is it? Okay, we finna wrap up. It's getting later than I thought. We gotta make a part 2. I tell you what, I hit this and hit that video, and then we'll stop and we'll do a part 2. Because I don't want to keep it long. I try to do an hour and a half at the longest. But how many of us have heard of Willie Lynch?
I've heard of it.
Okay, let's look at this. Now, this is a method. This Willie Lynch and also the making of a slave. This is the method. Huh?
Is that a person?
Well, they're trying to say now that that's not a person. It's more of a system that was set up. Now, they say that Willie Lynch, it's the Willie Lynch letter, like this man named Willie Lynch, and that's where they get lynching from. Came and bought this information to all the plantations that was having troubles with their slaves. Now, they say now that the Willie Lynch letter can't be proven, but when you look at reality of this right here, you see that it was true. Okay. You see what I'm saying? It ain't got to be a person named Willie Lynch. I mean, look, This system has been carried out. You know? So his name could have been Willie Willie. It don't matter. This system happened. So let's look at how they was able to control them. It says, this is Willie Lynch talking. I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. We're talking about the mindset of your oppressors. I guarantee that every one of you, that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. And we'll see what's happening that was true, because it's still going on now. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, envy for control purposes. What is known among the so-called black community right now? Fear of each other, distrust with each other. We'll trust an agent that come in our neighborhood with a hair stove. But if a sister try to set one up, we'd be like, man, you can't do business with no black person, boy.
Yep.
Exactly right. We'll trust everybody else. So fear is known among us. Distrust and envy is known among us. When you got that, what they call crab in a bucket type thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where we always trying to pull each other down for control purposes. And all this stuff was implemented during slavery. So this is why, well, let's look at some of this. This is why I can't totally fault so-called black people for their problems, even with black on black crime, because we living out what's been instituted in us. You see what I'm saying? Because if this stuff was never instituted in us, we wouldn't have these problems. Not taking away your personal right to choose what's right and wrong, but a lot of this stuff was embedded. It says, take this simple little list of differences and think about them. There is intelligence, size, sex, sizes of plantation. You put the old against the young. This is where the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves came into effect. And now we have dark and light people picking on each other. Because really now, over there in Africa, wasn't nobody picking on somebody because they dark skinned or picking on somebody because they light skinned. But that was implemented over here to separate us according to skin tone. The lighter you are, the better you had it in society. You ain't have it perfect. You were still a slave, but you got a somewhat better treatment. The darker you were, the worse you was treated. And you can take the media today. You don't see too many dark-skinned models that have made it over time, because beauty in darkness is not beauty to America. Am I talking right or wrong? Fine hair and coarse hair. That wasn't a problem over there. You see them African tribes, everybody hair can be slap nappy. And ain't nobody talking about nobody hair is nappy or my hair better than yours. You see what I'm saying? Or everybody hair can be curly. Ain't nobody talking about, boy, your hair nappy, boy, your hair curly. Ain't nobody got differences like that. But we do. House slave, field slave. Old black male to young black male. Status on plantations. Attitude of the owners, whether the slaves live in the valley or the hill, the east, west, north, and south. This is where we get east side, west side, north, and south. Because we as a people are very territorial. So we was taught back in the plantation days, if you was on the east part of the plantation, they would fight the east with the west, where they would have fighters and have them fight to their death. And your freedom was based off that what they was tell you, or if you didn't win your fight, they would beat you to death. So this would make two strong black males fight each other, and one represent the east and another represent the west, one represent the north, another one represent the south. Those things have been implemented, and this is why we represent east side, west side now. This is why you have all these gang violence that are territorial, because of what was implemented in us then. Can we see that going on now? We represent something. And I used to do it even when I was back in the day, when I was fighting in clubs and all that crazy stuff, representing my neighborhood and all that type of crazy stuff there. You see what I'm saying? So that stuff is already implemented. The black says, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become refueling, and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. Can we see these things still going on now? The reason we can't come together because of we look at each other differences and capitalize on them.
And all that is based back off of Deuteronomy, right?
Uh-huh.
When our ancestors broke.
Well, this right here now, this was set up by the slave master. Now, the Deuteronomy ain't necessarily prophesied that we was going to be talking about dark skin against light skin.
No, I mean, like, if they had kept it.
Oh, yeah. If
they could have never came in and got us like that.
Exactly. If they would have had kept the covenant,
yeah,
then we would never got put under these oppressors for them to do us like this.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So this is giving us reason now for we got to fully come in. What we doing now is fully repenting. And fully repenting means turning from one way into another way. Transform means to move into another form. So we looking at everything that was implemented in us, seeing the reason why, and turning back to God completely. But you can't come back to God completely without identifying what's been implemented in you or what's going on. So that's our form of repentance now, recognizing all these things so we can know to do better. Now let's look at this plan of meetings, because they show it in movies. So let me show you this picture of this movie real quick.
It's you liberals who have lifted them up, Howard.
Paul, you conservatives make a mistake. You can't afford to strangle hope in people. Without hope, people become dangerous.
No, Howard, you liberals have let them invade our society. You give them jobs, political jobs.
Paul, you missed the point. It's only the smart ones we move up.
That makes it even worse.
No, we have to move them up. If we leave a smart one in the ghetto, he might develop into a leader against us. But if we raise him up into white society, we neutralize him. He feels compelled to try to act like us. He loses his identity and his racial anger, if he has any. He becomes alien to his brothers. They realize he sold them out, and they grow to hate him. He becomes worthless to them and safe for us. No, thank you. In fact, in his love for the creature comforts, except for his color, he's become
some
one
of the
us.
jobs that we have that been moved up, where they have mentally become one of them, where they have no identify with you, don't care about you, saying all type of stuff because they've been raised up in that society. Now you can look at your jobs and just see you now, because of affirmative action, you got to have a certain amount of us in there.
Yeah.
But it's hard because this is why I say when I go back to integration, this is the reason they allow integration to happen.
Yeah.
Because they don't want us by ourselves, building our own stuff, thinking our own way, and possibly rising up against them.
Like Black Wall Street.
Like Black Wall Street. So they got to cut that off and raise you up into their empires or their whatever they building in order to control your thinking and control you. It ain't just your skill. It's neutralizing, because we don't want y'all to band together and start coming against us.
Did you really have integration or just desegregation?
I didn't hear you.
Did you really have integration or just desegregation?
That's a good question. What you mean?
Were we really integrated?
Oh, well, we really integrated. That's a good question. I would say the point of all the fighting that we did in order to feel like we was somewhat equal to them, where we could work at their jobs, go to their restaurants. I think some of that's what I mean that's what I'm thinking when I'm thinking about integration, where we totally took the mindset of having your own, building your people, building your own communities and stuff like that, where we took the mindset of, well, we got to go into their restaurants and do their thing, get jobs where they got jobs at, that's my mindset when I'm thinking about integration. And to me, when we thought so much into that and put so much energy towards that, we forgot, and then we finally they allowed us to accomplish that. That it took away nationhood and thinking for a nation. Then we start thinking for individuality. And that's why I say integration made us more individualized than nation-wise. Because right after slavery, a few hundred years after slavery, that's where all your HBCUs, historical black colleges, was built. All in 100 and some years after slavery. Black Wall Street, all these other things that we was able to build our own communities was right not too far after slavery. Now, when we got integration of civil rights, what have we built since then?
And so the government, they use the term desegregation more often than they
Okay, I don't understand that term. What is that? What does that mean?
I don't know, that's the term. I remember looking at old film clips and articles. They use desegregation more than integration. I don't know why.
I don't know. I don't understand. You know what that mean, Mother?
Well, I would say that desegregation is what allowed us to do what we did, but we wasn't really integrated.
Oh, okay. I got what you're saying. Yeah, okay. You right about that. Now. When it comes to really and truly integrating us into society, we wasn't. We wasn't. Not on no equal playing field like it should have been. We weren't integrated at all. We was given an illusion of integration, but we were still segregated.
Right, because they use the term desegregation, and it was supposed to mean separate but equal. But the school systems and all that, it never was equal.
Okay, so that's what desegregation.
It was supposed to mean equal,
separate but equal.
But they never lived up to that, especially with the education system and stuff. You know,
that's good, man. That's something I got to go look up some more and put that in my pocket. I like that.
That kind of made me remember how they put it. They put it equal but separate. But it never was that.
All right, so let's go over this real quick. We got about 10 minutes before 5:30, so we can knock that out. And then we'll do the part 2 next time. So we looked at that. Now let's look at the making of a slave. And this is another of the scientific things that was bought in order to separate us. It says, Frederick Douglass says, let's make a slave. It's a study of the scientific process of man breaking and slave making. It describes the rationale and the result of the Anglo-Saxons' ideas and methods of ensuring the master-slave relationship. Let's Make a Slave, the original and development of a social being called the Negro. So the Negro to America is a socially engineered person. I'm going to say that again. A socially engineered person, breaking a person from a man to a slave. When you reduce a person to a Negro, in their thinking, you have bought a person into a mentality of a slave. Let us make a slave. Okay, I went too far. First of all, it was the interest and business of the slave owners to study human nature. So they had to study human nature. They studied us and the slave nature in particular with a view to particular results. Second, we used the same basic principle that we used in breaking a horse combined with some more sustaining factors. So they studied us. They understand what we are more likely to do in certain situations, and they implemented the results of that. Our experts warn us about the possibility of this phenomenon occurring, for they say that the mind has a strong drive to correct and recorrect itself over a period of time if it can touch some substantial original historical base. And they advise us that the best way to deal with this phenomenon is to shave off the brute's mental history. This is why they never taught us to be able to read. Because of the study, they knew if the mind had a strong drive to correct or recorrect itself over a period of time, if it can touch substantial original historical base. That's why you couldn't know your history. Because now our mind is beginning to recorrect ourselves because now we got a base now, a historical base now.
The scripture kind of takes everything right back around to the Bible. If they didn't want you to know how to read, why would they give us a Bible?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense now that they done manipulated, left stuff out, part of our history out,
Exactly.
into the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Now it makes sense.
Now it makes sense. They knew what they was doing. They knew you couldn't read, so they know that if I teach you not to read, right? But I take this book and name it the Bible, and I'm reading stuff out of it in order to control you and to hurt you and to beat you. When you learn how to read, right, you won't want to go back to this. Because when you couldn't read, when the master read that, I got beatings after this according to this. So now, when people begin to wake up, their thinking was, okay, we're going to read, we're going to teach a doctrine. We ain't going to teach the Bible, because we teach the Bible, they'll learn their history. But we're going to teach a doctrine and coin a religion called Christianity behind it. So when they really wake up, they'll never go back to the Bible, because they'll say that's a white man's religion. And they'll never come back to the scripture, because they say this was used to enslave us. Have you heard that?
And you won't decipher anything.
You won't decipher, you won't come back to this, because you'll look at those things and say, they used this to enslave us.
That makes sense.
So in their mind, they said, we got to think this thing all the way through. We ain't going to let them read, but we're going to take the most powerful book there is, which is the Bible, and indoctrinate their mind. So when their descendants begin to awaken, they'll teach their children, don't go to that Bible, because that Bible is what enslaved you.
And who taught?
And all your history of everything is in here.
Yeah, and who taught our preachers how to teach us?
The oppressor.
Yeah.
And that's another history you got to learn. That's why certain preachers now, because they've been set up, will not go into this.
No.
I'm talking about televangelists. They'll preach everything else, but they won't preach this because they're told what to preach.
I grew up Baptist. I never heard none of it.
Yeah.
None of it.
A lot of us didn't, but it's just the time now that God is awakening us. So you see, this is the reason they couldn't allow us to read, get no type of historical base. So now let's see what was implemented. They said, take the meanest and most restless nigger, stripped him of his clothes in front of the remaining. Now this is how they was able to control, because they would bring everybody out together and do this to one or two people in front of everybody, and it will instill fear and control in front of everybody. Take the meanest and most restless nigga, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male niggas and the female and the nigga infant, tar him, feather him, which is beat him, tie each leg to a different horse facing opposite direction, set him on fire, beat both the horses, and pull them apart in front of the remaining, I'm going to quit saying that, the remaining slaves. Now, can you imagine seeing this, where you got a person pinned, both his legs pinned to a horse, you beat him ruthlessly in front of all of them, set them on fire, and then pull them apart? That would put a type of trauma and fear in the rest of their mind, that they wouldn't try to go against the slave master wishes. And you constantly beating them every day. They don't have their quota of cotton, their quota of this, you beating them. This is instilling fear. Same way today, where we have these killings, by the police on somewhere, and it's video, and now we thinking we just want to get through this. You see what I'm saying? So all this is an agenda, like we was talking about before. All this what's going on now is an agenda for control purposes. Huh?
Does it make you wonder the mindset of somebody that's able to do that?
That is what we're going to watch. Oh, we can't watch it next week because we're going to be out of town. But that's the next thing we're going to watch, because this lady named, Joy, I can't remember her name. She did a thorough breakdown and study about the psychology to be able to get a person's mind and children's mind to be able to look at something like that and think it's okay.
Jesus.
And she is thorough. I mean, she really, because she opened up with, if she take a dog, set a dog on fire, hang the dog, and beat his head in, that the average person wouldn't be able to take that sighting. They'll go crazy. So she was like, well, how? Then she showed pictures of children looking up, smiling, while a black man is hanging and his body is burned and lynched, and they taking the picture smiling. She's like, how can you get somebody's mind to be like that? Then she broke it down, and I was like, wow. Wow. But what I can do, I can go ahead and send you guys the video. You can watch it on your own time, and then we'll come together. We can even watch it together and have a discussion about it. Y'all want to do it like that?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
What can you put together with that Willie Lynch that's like what you just showed? I like that. A sheet or email, anything.
I can give you these slides, and
Yeah.
or I can give you the letter with these slides and all this information on it, and you can see it. And we'll stop right here because it's getting past time, and we'll pick back up when we get back. We meet again, but most of us is part of the Facebook group, and then I will send a message out on to your phones too or your emails. I got most of it, and I give y'all this information so you can see it. It's called the Willie Lynch, and it's called the Making of a Slave.
Yeah.
And I give you both of them. The reason this is important to me because I know every effect have a cause, and the stuff that we doing now ain't just because we just doing it. So I like to go back to the origin and see how this stuff was implemented to see where we at today. Just like drugs and even the killing each other, and even with the music, all this stuff was implemented and focused on us. So all the effects, you can't just look at the effects and get mad by the effects and just say black folks need to do better. No, you got to go back to what was studied, how they studied you, and how they studied putting us in a ghetto and studied our outcome if they take away things, put stuff in. I mean, you'll be amazed of if we put them in a ghetto, make that area just for them that they can only be in, make it hard for them to get jobs, make it hard for them to be in our society, make it poverty very bad for them, and then throw drugs in there and see where they start selling and taking drugs for despair and selling it in order to feed their families. And then make this stigma about them, build jails, and make the laws according to the drugs and stuff we put in there in order to put them in jail and make them be slaves again in jail. Building our empire, free labor in jail.
Yeah.
Reciprocal. That is steady going on. And then make it be like, it's all y'all fault. Y'all just need to do better.
And don't show how America let the drugs get in.
Exactly.
Don't show that.
Ain't no let how they put the drugs in there and siphoned them in there in order to have us where we are today. You see what I'm saying? And I promise you, they have did studies to set all these things that are going on right now with the police to see what the reaction of black folks will be. We need them to start shooting. We need them to start going crazy. So it's different stuff they done implemented. And boy, this will be far-fetched, but a lot of this stuff is somewhat staged. Somewhat.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna say everything, but somewhat, because it's just all of a sudden. Come on, man. It's just all of a sudden, it just then got crazy.
I had been doing some research too, and a lot of this stuff is staged.
Yeah. When you really is planned and thought out. And I'm not saying that some of the killings ain't real, because some people might have died and some people might not have died. Some people can be somewhere else, somewhere where Tupac is. But but some of this stuff, they need a certain reaction in order to bring in the type of laws they want with martial law and different stuff like that. But we're going to stop right here, and I'll send you this information, and I'm going to send you that video. Please look at the video. Please. When you get a chance this week sometime, either,
How long is the video?
I don't know. I just got so intrigued by it. I was just watching it, man. But if you got to take it step by step. But I'll shoot the link to everybody so they can see it. And this lady, she really did a great job of breaking down history. That's why I say you can't look at everybody going to believe the way you believe. But you can take some stuff that people have strength in and learn from them, even though you don't believe the same thing. Now, she never professed to believe the Bible or nothing like that. But stuff that you can see, the stuff that she studied has been implemented on us, and some of the stuff we teach to our children just because of that's what we learn. All right, but we're going to end right there. We're going to stop right there. We'll pick back up next week.